Hello and welcome to the Schola Progenium. Today we've got a very exciting battle report for you because we've got the debut of the new Genestealer codex. Finally it has arrived. Ascension Day has come and it is time to openly worship the four-armed emperor. So Tim's going to take you through his army in detail because we've got a lot of the new characters on display and a lot of different options that have sort of switched up that are better or worse since the index to codex changeover. So without much further ado, Tim, take us through your army. Let's see what you've got here.
Okay, so I'm running 3 detachments today. Genestealer cult a very CP intensive army, so I've got 2 battalions and a vanguard. Starting off with the vanguard, this will be a twisted helix detachment, which means everyone's going to have +1 strength and they get +2 to their advance rolls. They've got a squad of acolytes. They have 6 rock saws. The sergeant has a bone sword and lash whip, and the rest of them have got cultist knife, rending claw, and auto pistol. They're just can openers. They'll just tear through most armor. Behind them, we've got the bruisers of the army. We've got 10 aberrants. We've got 6 with power pick. We have 2 with heavy power hammer, and then you can do something unique with aberrants, which is you can take 1 sergeant, 1 aberrant hypermorph for every 5 guys, and because I've got 10 here, it means I can essentially take 2 sergeants in this squad, and each one of those aberrant hypermorphs has a improvised heavy weapon and a hypermorph tail, and that's these guys here with the purple tentacles. So those guys, they reduce damage by 1, they get a fire but feel no pain, the toughness 4, they are pretty much the tanks of my army. Behind them we have 3 squads, and these are going to be metamorphs today. I used to run pure strains, but since the codex dropped they've become kind of bad. So we're going to be trying out metamorphs today. Each one of these guys has 2 metamorph talons, which just make them 11 points per guy, but it means they get 5 attacks each, hitting on 2s, and because they're twisted helix, they're strength 5. So that is pretty impressive. And each metamorph leader is going to be the Genestealer with the feeder tendrils, just so that we can determine who is the sergeant. We also have a Clamavus. He's just a basic support character. He's pretty cheap. His main function is to give everyone +1 to their charge distance. And leading this detachment will be a Primus. He has just his usual loadout: Toxic Injector Claw, Needle Pistol, and Bone Sword. No upgrades there, but he does give everyone around him +1 to hit. And on the turn he comes in, he can designate an enemy unit, and you get reroll 1s to hit against it. So he can be quite good for an alpha strike.
Is it +1 to hit in close combat and long range?
Just close combat.
Just close combat.
Just close combat. Then we've got 2 battalions, chock full of neophyte hybrids. We've got a 15-man squad with 2 heavy stubbers and grenade launchers. Another 15-man squad with 2 manning lasers, 2 grenade launchers, and another 15-man squad with 2 seismic cannons and 2 flamers. And this will be led by the Patriarch. He's going to have the Warlord trait today, Biomorphic Adaptation, I believe, which basically it gives him +1 strength, +1 attack. And he will have an Acolyte Icon ward with him who's going to have the Relic Cult of the Icon of the Cult Ascendant, which gives everyone around him +1 strength. So lots of extra strength. Bodyguardian today, we're going to be showing off the Locust. Never used this guy before. He essentially can jump in front of the Patriarch and take wounds for him on a 2+. Apart from that, he's not particularly special. And then over here we have another battalion, 20 neophytes. We have 2 flamers, and the sergeant has a bolt pistol. Everyone else has shotguns. We're not running the cult icon today. Another 20 neophytes, 2 grenade launchers, 2 heavy stubbers, and finally 1 small man, 10-man neophyte squad with no upgrades whatsoever. And this will be led by a Magus who has another relic, so I've paid 1 command point to take an extra relic. He's going to have the Crouchling relic, which means his familiar, as long as it is alive, gives him +1 to all casting rolls, and he knows an additional psychic power. And finally, we have another new character today, the Jackal Alphas. She is basically has a big sniper rifle on a bike, and she gives +1 to hit in the shooting phase against a designated enemy unit for everyone around within 6 inches. So I pick 1 enemy unit, and then everyone within 6 inches can get +1 to hit on the shooting phase.
So facing off against the Genestealers today, I have a new army list that I've been trying out recently. Well, it's not that new now. I've had a fair few games with it and it's started to win quite consistently now. So hopefully it'll do well today for me. And that is my pure infantry Red Tide Blood Angel list. So let's look at it in a bit more detail. I've got 5 characters. I've got a combat captain who's got a Thunderhammer and jetpack. I've got another captain who's got a master crafted bolter and a power sword. Then I've got a lieutenant with a master crafted bolter and a power sword. I've got a chaplain, jump pack, and nothing else extra. And then Mephiston, there's an extra little bit of combat character goodness. Going on to my fast attacks, I have 5 assault marines just with chainswords and jetpacks, and then I have 3 more 5-man assault marine units, and each one of those has a melter, and 2 of them have power axes on the sergeants, 1 has a power sword. Moving on to my elite section, I have 2 units of Termes. One's just standard tactical Termes with storm bolters and 4 power fists, 1 power sword on the sergeant. And the other is my 5 assault terminators. Wow. Assault hammer.
Gilliman has been released on the toy since Codex retiring.
So yes, what we will now call assault hammer terminators. And I've got 14 Death Company, a big old chunk of Death Company, and they've got 4 power swords and 2 thunder hammers. So they're bringing a lot of the special weapons. And then finally, I have 2 battalions, 6 5-man TAC Marine squads. 3 of those are bare bones, and 3 of them have plasma. So it's quite a lot of mass infantry versus mass infantry here. So we'll see how the game plays out. Let's see what we're playing and what deployment is and all that kind of thing. So welcome to the field of battle. The game type is big guns never tire. The deployment opted for by Tim was table quarters. As you can see, we're playing on some urban terrain, and we've styled this kind of like how we imagine a spaceport or docking station or something like that. What has happened is this world has recently fallen to a Genestealer uprising, but the Tyranids haven't turned up yet. The Genestealers were just in a position to take over, and the Blood Angels have landed and dropped in a company of infantry at the spaceport, ready to take back over. But first of all, they'll need to secure this spaceport before they can make a planet-wide drop. So, Tim's deployed his blips and chips, and he has paid 3 command points? 1 command point for 3 extra chips. So we've got some chips here, some chips here, that's an objective, and some chips around here as well. So it's sort of nondescript. The Blood Angels are getting some blips on their radar, but as of yet, nothing has revealed itself. The 4 objectives were just put across the centre of the board. It just turned out that way. 1, 2, 3 under that melter guy. 4. I've spread my assault marines and tactical marines out in a line. So I've got a mix of everything just across the centre, ready to advance forward into an ambush, willingly, with Mephiston just there, just slightly behind the front lines, ready to lead the assault. You can sense something is not right. So, without much further ado, let's get on with turn 1. Tim, do you have a dice?
I do.
Right, so I get
Blessed
+1.
dice anointed by the patriarch himself.
Right, let's do this. I get +1. So I've got a 6 +1.
Yeah.
Tim's got a 2. Do you want to try and steal?
Yeah.
Go for it. And no, it's a 3. So the Blood Angels advance forward into the unknown. So just as a one-off break of convention, so we can show how the Genestealers work with their blips and chips, so to speak, we are going to film just at the end of the Blood Angels movement phase. The Blood Angels have just moved forward. They could all move about 5 inches or so, roughly, here and there, just because these blips stop you moving within 9 inches of them. And remember, 3 of these could be fake. So I was going to hide my captain behind there because he could just sort of cheekily hide in that dent in the blips, man, that wall. Then I thought, those 3 could be fake, and then he'll be more than 12 inches from a charge, and he'll get shot, so I decided not to. These Blood Angels have just sort of set up a little central defence here. And then the rest of my lines have just pushed forward a mix of Assault Marines and Tactical Marines. And as you can see, the lines are just kind of strung out a little bit in each squad, just so I can make sure that everyone's getting the buffs from the 2 characters hidden in there. And that's my Warlord, the captain. Just to mention, Mephiston has Quickening, Unleash Rage, and Wings of Sanguinius. And of course, Smite. He is a beast. Right, okay. So, Tim, do you want to reveal? Do you want to take the camera and reveal?
No, it's all going to be in this general area.
Okay, go for it.
So, this one's going to be fake.
Okay.
This one's going to be fake.
Okay.
And this one's going to be fake.
So, I predicted correctly that he was trying to lure me in. They were all 12 inches away from where I could get to, so I was thinking, ooh, tempt Johnny for the 12-inch charge, but it didn't work. The Blood Angels are smarter than that. Mephiston said something was wrong.
So now I'm going to spend...
Something in the wings.
I'm going to spend a command point to now move 3 of them up to 12 inches. I'll just get the name for you now.
3 of these can move 12 inches, up to 12 inches.
I have to stay in my deployment zone.
Have to stay in your deployment
So I
zone.
can't suddenly appear in front of you.
Okay.
And that is called Meticulous Uprising.
So Tim did yet more command point based shenanigans, and he disappeared his 3 fake ones, as you saw. Then he moved 3 to where he wanted them to be. So he pushed 2 over here and then dropped trucks. And then 1 sort of a bit forward and dropped a truck there. And then he buried 3 for a command point. So he had 9 on the field, 3 were fake. 3 are trucks with aberrants in. Metamorphs in. And 3 have now gone underground. So let's see what the Blood Angels could do. Now I've moved with everything, and now I'm starting to think that was a bad idea, and I should have just sat there and waited to see what Tim dropped. But I thought it'll just move stuff out of 24 inches away and then shoot it, and then it'll waste a turn. So best to push on, is what I decided. I've come here to take the spaceport, and take the spaceport is what I will do. So let's get some shooting done. Right, so Blood Angels have had a pretty satisfying turn. As you can see, Mephiston's got forward there, and there's 1 truck missing. And this is despite Tim's new Games Workshop dice rolling a hell of a lot of 6s for Feel No Paint, but I'll get to that in 1 second. So I blast away with all my bolters. Bolt pistols were out of range, melt was out of range, but plasma was in range. And I managed to get the rock grinder that was there down to 7 wounds. Then my sergeant opened fire, got 2 hits, 1 wound, AP -1. Tim failed it. And he passed 1 of his Feel No Pains, which put him on 8. And then my captain did the same, and he didn't get that 5 in... Oh, sorry, captain's there. Didn't get the 5 he needed to wound, so I spent a command point, even though it's a 5 up, thought, I'm going to go for this because his rock grinder's on like 1-2 wounds. He got the 5. Tim again failed the armour save, failed the he used a command point on his 5 up armour save to try and stop it going through, but he failed his 5 up reroll, and thankfully, because I passed mine, that thing blew up and got me first blood, that rock grinder. And in the psychic phase, what I'd done is I jumped Mephi forward after he'd revealed himself, after Tim had revealed all his units. So I jumped Mephi forward 12 inches, he got 3 extra wounds, and I managed to do I hit with everything, wounded with everything, and put 14 damage on him with his D3 damage, and then Tim managed to make 5 6-ups out of 14 wounds, so that guy remained on 1 wound. Mephi did 9, but I'm still pleased with that. One of these guys blew up, sort of died in the explosion when their rock grinder died, And Tim originally was going to deploy them there, but then he thought, you know, threatening my lines, but then he thought, oh, Mephi's too close, I'll chop them up in close combat. His Rock Grinder has a better chance of living, and I mean, it didn't really, but dice balanced out for Tim. And yeah, so I've pushed the Genestealers back a little bit. I've blown up one vehicle, almost destroyed another. Mephi's just doing his little suicide bombing run. And yeah, so happy overall with just a bit of bolter fire. You can do a lot. So let's see what Tim gets done in his Genestealer turn 1. So the Genestealer's Rock Grinder revved its engines and smashed forward into the Blood Angels lines on the right flank. These dudes, whatever they're called, hopped out. What are they called?
Metamorphs.
The Metamorphs hopped out, and the Rock Grinder fired its flamethrower and managed to kill 3 of the Assault Marines that were there. Both units then charged in to both Tactical Marines and Assault Marines because they were bunched up. And then over here, Tim had also hopped out his Metamorphs into this cover, and these Metamorphs ran behind this building, and I'll explain why in 1 minute. So, shooting wise, combat wise, Tim went first with these guys to kill Mephiston, and a whole flurry of attacks came in. Mephiston only failed 3 of his 2-up armor save. I re-rolled 1 with the command point, and I'd failed 2, but then I failed both my feel no pains, and Mephiston died. Then I interrupted because I thought I need to kill as many of Tim's models in this turn as possible and reduce as many incoming as possible. I interrupted with this squad because I only had 2 Assault Marines left, and I managed to kill 3 Metamorphs, Blood Angels wounding on 2-ups against toughness 3 models. Then Tim had to use both units to kill off the remaining Assault Marines, so I've lost a literal handful of Blood Angels, but it does include Mephiston, who's an expensive unit, but that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. And now Tim's in a bit of a shaky spot. So as Blood Angels went first, I've got a lot of reinforcements to bring in, but I've got to be careful. I could try and table Tim turn 2, but I've got to be careful. If I mess it up, Tim will be bringing in most of his army on the counter deploy, the counter attack. So we'll have to see what happens. Blood Angels turn 2. So this is what I was talking about. After the Blood Angels movement phase, I've dropped in 2 Terminator squads on this flank and run this squad up, so they've lost their rapid fire bolter shenanigans for the turn because they've had to move, but they can all now see this little squad that were hidden. I've also got the Death Company here, and they've got bolters as well. And they're dropped down so they can sort of charge anything that's alive. It's 9 inches from every unit in Tim's back. So anything that I don't shoot, the Death Company can take care of. Then over here, I pulled these guys out of combat. I was going to leave them in, but in the last second I'd changed my mind. And now I've run these guys up with the melter towards that vehicle. These guys have run out of cover towards that vehicle. So it's looking pretty shaky, so I thought I'd just film it quickly, because if I blew everything up it would just be, you know, weird. End to the battle report. So let's see what happens with the Red Tide versus new Genestealer Cult Codex. So after the Blood Angels turn 2, these Terminators just sprayed in rapid fire into these guys and killed them. Then this fired a melter at the Rock Grinder, just blew it up. A couple of squads, or 1 squad, fired rapid fire into the 5 guys there. Tim messed up his saves and they died as well. Then everything else shot at the Rock Grinder, but I failed to kill it. I got it down to 7 wounds, so everything else sort of bounced off. So I charged it with Assault Marines, 2 units of Tactical Marines, Captain, and then there's a squad of 2 that was over there. Got it with a Lieutenant and a Tactical Marine squad, and we just had them apart in close combat. So it's a decisive victory for the Blood Angels in only 2 turns, a 2-turn tabling with the pure infantry Blood Angel squad. So that I mean, Tim really forced my hand there, I have to say. And the idea with the battle report is to show you how to use lists. So unfortunately, Tim spending his command point to put 3 of the units that he started off, 3 of the discs, the Blitz and Chips that he started off on the battlefield. He spent a command point, as you remember, in the first turn to bury 3 of those so they could deep strike. But that just left him with 3 Rock Grinders and the accompanying troops on the board. to face off against effectively 2,000 points with a Blood Angels infantry. So I guess that's just sort of one of those things when you're playing a new... I've played Blood Angels for just years, decades literally, and Tim's been playing Genestealers for how long a year, Tim?
About a year.
About a year, and this is his first game, second game with the new codex.
Yeah.
First on camera. So it just shows, you know, when you've got all your different stuff that you can spend, sometimes you might maybe, I don't know, would you say that was, would you agree with my assessment that was the decision that changed the game, going those 3 units?
Yeah.
So what would you say to wrap up that, you know, as a Genestealer, you know, what would you say about the Genestealer codex?
Didn't really get to see it in action, unfortunately. But yeah, just be careful you don't put too much in reserve.
Yeah, summary of the Genestealer codex, first battle, don't put too much in reserve. And pure infantry, you know, it only starts off with 20 assault marines and 30 tactical marines on the field. That's all you deploy with, and a few characters, but that can be misleading. And if your opponent overstretch themselves, you can grab them and destroy them before they have a chance to blink. So thank you this has been the Schola Progenium. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.